is a Bramble Jam podcast.
Welcome to Girls Gone Hallmark, a Hallmark review podcast. I'm Megan, and I'm a longtime Hallmark fan. Today, we are back to wrap up the Chicken Sisters Season 2. I'm joined once again by Erin Shea, who holds the distinction of having watched all of Chicken Sisters Season 2. And I wanted you back for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, we like you. Two, as mentioned, you did watch the whole season, which doesn't seem like was something a ton of people did. And three, you made a statement on our first podcast episode that we did that I really wanted to bring you back for. Do you have a guess what that statement is that I'm talking about?
It is either going to be about Nancy or about Clayton.
No, neither,
it's not?
actually.
Okay.
No. Okay, well, we're going to get into it.
Good, we have things to talk about.
I can't wait. I can't even envision what the Nancy or Clayton statements are. The statement actually is, remember in the book when Frank Jr. was dead? I miss that. That's the statement I'm thinking of specifically. We are going to talk about the Frank Jr. of it all, but I'm going to save that for a minute. First, I want to hear what you thought of the season, of the show as a whole.
As a whole, I am still very much in on the Chicken Sisters. I think they did a great job of of finishing the season 2 arc of certain storylines. There are still things that I am looking forward to, like, you know, not necessarily just Hallmark, but some shows in general. I feel like we get to this point where I'm like, yeah, I don't really care anymore.
I'm good,
yeah, like, I'm good. That was a fun story. But they took this concept of a book where I read the book and I was like, yeah, cool, we did it, Chicken Sisters. But I'm actively like, okay, when is season 3? Have you started filming yet? Are we getting a season 3? Like, I'm still very much in on Merrimack.
I feel like I'm more interested in season 3 than I was in season 2, like at the end of season 1. I'm like, oh, there's so many more places. Like, I'm so much more invested in these characters. We solicited some feedback from some of our listeners, and I'm going to read a few of those throughout this episode. And one of them from Chelsea, she says, I wasn't a huge fan of season 1, but being a completionist, I watched season 2 anyway and was so impressed. I care about the characters way more after this season and actually look forward to seeing where season 3 will take us. And I think that really, I liked season 1, but I think that speaks to my feelings about season 2 as well. Like, I'm so much more invested in these people.
Yeah.
Going into season 2, I was like, okay, well, what are we going to do? Because we're not basing it on the book anymore. So we're kind of flying blind here. Let's start with your thoughts on Nancy in this season.
Yeah. When I was on, it was the very beginnings of Nancy discovering that she had a voice and could use it. And that rest of that season, you know, she gets that petition signed. She's out, you know, the storm where she's like, no one's ringing the siren. And Gus kind of makes the comment of like, well, I guess it's you. And Nancy's like, darn right, it is me. And then just her, like, just taking charge, telling the pastor, like, hey, I've been the woman behind the man my whole life. And this is just another one of those situations. Like, I need to be the woman behind the woman. Like, you know, and then that one little line at the end where it was like, hey, mayoral elections are coming up. Like, yes, Nancy, like, figure out who you are. You have a voice. You are strong. You are capable. And I'm so excited. Like, I want to see this mayoral race. Like, I want to see Nancy run Merrimack.
I know. At the end of I think it was episode 6, like when we start to learn that the storm is coming and she goes to town hall and he's not there, I was like, is Nancy going to run for mayor? And I was so glad. I kind of like, it was like a throwaway comment, but I was so glad we kind of got to see that come out. And like, Nancy just kicked everyone's ass this season.
Yeah. A slightly slow start for her. And then once she hit running, she just took off. And I was just so happy to see her, you know, where, you know, she has the conversation with Frank where she's like, you've let the family down. Like, I haven't let you down. Like, you've let us down. And it was just like, yeah, Nancy.
Yeah, I loved it. Like, she apologizes to him, but she's like, you owe me an apology too, and stands on that. I loved it. I loved all of it. we never learned, as far as I know, what the pastor was doing on his trip. It was just this like vague
building houses. They
I
mentioned building at some point.
yeah, but then like are they leaving the town pastorless? Like what's happening? I was like he's going to be gone for all these months. This small town certainly doesn't have multiple churches on every corner. He's like the town pastor.
Yeah,
So
he's the town pastor.
yeah. Well, let's talk about my personal biggest disappointment of the season, Clayton.
Yes. Yep.
You know, that scene we had when he goes to Gus and like offers her an explanation of his life, and you see the way like she takes this is early in the season. Was that the episode you were on? I can't even remember. She like takes it
remember.
she takes it all in, and it's such like beautiful acting from Wendy Malick, and you almost feel like okay, like Gus is like getting this moment. And then I was skeptical of Clayton from the jump. Like when he goes to May and she just like accepted him, and I was like, wait, you need to ask for more from him. Like, why aren't you asking where he's been? And then from then on, it was just disappointment after disappointment after disappointment.
Yeah, he was one of those storylines where he came in and right from the jump, like, too good to be true. And it was one of those things where it's like, could these women have just this thing that's just good from the get-go, where it's, it doesn't have to be good through hard work or through, it's just like, here's this man who has loved them from afar and he's finally in a place where he can be here. I was like, great, we have this great storyline. And then turns out, no, we don't. Turns out he's not who we thought he was, or he's exactly who we thought he was.
Right? He's only here for a good time.
Yeah.
That was such a hard scene to watch, that dinner scene at Mimi's where he's talking about like their future and their plans. And you can see Gus processing it because Gus's future is not outside of Merrimack. Like she finally has this relationship with her daughters and she's like, this is where I want to be. I don't want to travel the world with you. And when she collapses, that's I think the moment where anybody who wasn't skeptical of him is like, oh, this is not going to go well. And then he was the worst nurse ever.
Yeah, I was right there with Nancy screaming at the TV where she's like, well, did you give her food? Did she take food with the medication? He's like, I took care of it. And it's like, sir, it's a yes, no question. It's like, if you gave her food, it's a very quick yes. And the fact that you won't answer it.
Yeah, this is like 2 hours of your life. How hard is it, man? Oh,
and then, I mean, hated that Gus had to overhear it. Yeah. But where Nancy like tells him off and she's like, you are exactly who I thought you were. Oh man, from these two women like hating each other to now being like each other's fiercest protectors. I was like,
best friends. I loved it.
Yes.
Yeah, and then Gus kind of has the opportunity to repay the favor in that Storm episode when she's in the basement with Frank Jr. And she's like, look around at what your mother has created. And it was interesting because Gus can kind of relate to Frank Jr. in being flawed and having some sins to have atoned for. But she really is, I think, finally the voice that gets through to him in all of this, which, they go in so contentious. I thought that basement scene was so well done. Well, let's talk about Frank Jr.
Yeah.
Because one of our listeners, Amy, asks, what did y'all think of Frank Jr.'s redemption arc in the last episode? I'm not 100% sure I bought it. While watching, I just kept thinking, okay, so Frank is good now? And then once we got to the end, it all made sense. I hope they go through on killing him. And if they do, I guess I don't mind them giving him a good send-off. So, what are your thoughts on Frank Jr.'s redemption in this finale?
I don't think that it was fake. Like, I do think he started to see what he had done. He had started to see the part he played. That wasn't just Amanda's fault for leaving him. Like, he played a part in that marriage demise. His family didn't they didn't leave him on Kitchen Showdown. Like, he had the choice to, it was like all these things where it's like, I'm not necessarily, he was realizing that he's not necessarily the victim. Like, he played a part in all these and he had choices too. And I definitely think, there was this there's more to go. It's not just like, oh, we blanket forgive you. You said sorry. You signed the divorce papers. Great. Everything's good now. Like, I definitely think there were steps where he was like, I'm trying to prove that I am this person. And so it was like one of those where I was, like I said, was just ready for him to be killed off. And he was just so mean and, taking back the family recipe. And just everything he did just seemed so evil and just so why? Like, why are we doing this, Frank Jr.?
Mhm.
And so I kind of bought it. And then when he starts climbing up that ladder, I was like, no, like
No.
they finally got me to care about this character, and now it's Hallmark, so I don't think they're gonna kill him off. I don't know. It doesn't seem very Hallmark to like start to give someone a redemption arc and then kill them in the middle of that arc. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I think this show goes a lot of places that Hallmark doesn't always go. To that point, another Erin says it's refreshing to see a show focused on women supporting women, showing that people can change and become better versions of themselves. Shines a real light on mental health while maybe not going deep enough. Gus's hoarding tendencies and May's anxiety. And then, of course, there are relationships, but they aren't the main focus. I do think that this is kind of a little bit of a departure of Hallmark's normal formula, still
Mhm.
working within the Hallmark parameters. I said all along, I don't want a Frank Jr. redemption story. Don't make me want that. And then I did buy it in the final
Yeah.
episode. Like it felt genuine. And I agree with you. Like he has a long way to go. It's not one and done. He has to continue to behave this way. But he seemed contrite and he seemed genuine. And my favorite part is when he's having that moment after the storm with all of the women, you can see Frankie in the background watching it. And I liked that she was getting that moment where
Mhm.
now she doesn't have to choose sides. Now she doesn't have to keep these two parts of her life separate. Like she can have both parents and she can have a relationship with everybody without having to balance as the one in the middle, which was really the only reason I wanted the redemption. You know, I wanted it for Nancy because she deserved to have, she wanted it so badly, but I wanted it for Frankie too, to make life easier on her. I kind of felt like when he's walking up that ladder, I'm like, why didn't I see this coming? Why didn't I see that it was now too good to be true?
Right.
And then they were going to just like rip it away. And I didn't. And then as soon as he starts climbing it with the voiceover, I thought, oh no.
Yeah. That first wobble of the ladder, I was like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
And the thing I
So,
like about his redemption is, yeah, Frankie gets to see that there's some healing here. Nancy gets to have that moment with her son. But I like that they went through with the divorce. Like it wasn't just Amanda's like,
yes.
oh, you've changed. Let's work on this. It was like, no, there was love here. And there can be a different form of love in the future, but like this path for us is no longer working. And so like I think that's the part of the redemption arc I would have been like,
I would
why?
have hated that. I would have hated him and Amanda getting back
But
together.
he realized that like, this part is ending now. For both of us to heal, we need to, and so I like, if we're gonna get a Frank redemption arc, they did it in a way that I was like, yes, now like I didn't see it coming, but now I am rooting for this character.
I know. I know. Well, the slowest slow burn ever, Amanda and Sergio finally. I just was like, could we drag this out? Like, what? You know, they couldn't have kissed during the storm. We couldn't have had something else. So I'm glad we finally get to see that come
Yeah,
together.
I've never lived through a storm like that. But if I'm in a building, just me and the guy I have a crush on, and like glass is getting blown out everywhere, and it looks like we don't know what's gonna happen. For
Take the
sure, kissing him,
shot.
like just kiss him.
Exactly. Like this
The
could be
world
our
is
last
literally ending
chance.
around you. Kiss him. You're
Yeah.
huddled under this counter together. Like
You couldn't
he
possibly
needs
get
a
closer.
distraction for his fear. Kiss him.
No, you just blame your fear after the fact if you feel like you need an excuse.
Yeah. Be like, sorry, you were freaking out. I thought we were gonna die. It seemed like the perfect time.
I loved the wedding. I loved the wedding. I thought the wedding was perfect for the situation. What did you think about the wedding?
I loved it. Like there is a lot about May that I just see a lot of myself in her. When like I do not to the extent that she does, but I definitely like to have things organized and things are in their place. And when everything is going great, when my job isn't stressing me out, when I feel like I'm really nailing the friend thing and I'm sleeping well, I do let my organization like slide because I'm like, yeah, who needs these routines? And then all of a sudden, like the routines get out of control, and I'm like, they were there for a reason. And I just feel like May has done all this growth. I didn't see it coming, and I probably should have, when she and Jay are fighting about
Oh,
the wedding, and
such a good
she was
scene.
like, see, all these people are like, they're alone, and he's and because I was just like, you guys have had this fight
Yes.
where he was like, you just think I'm gonna leave, and I was like, come on, man, we've had this fight, he's not leaving, and she's like, no, she's like, it's me, like I'm the cursed one, and I was like, oh,
Such
May.
a good flip. I know. I didn't see it coming either. That's one of my favorite scenes in the whole series.
Oh, or he was just like, no, it is like me, and he's like, whether you leave or not, like, like I want you for it, however long I can have you, and I was like,
I know the good guys in the show are so good. You know,
mhm.
Sergio and Jay, and then little Gruster comes back and is helpful to Sabrina.
Yeah,
And like, you know, it doesn't,
he just comes in with like his 3 lines.
you know, Gruster and Sabrina can have their moment in season 3 if we get a
Yes,
season 3.
I'm sorry. When Calls the Heart can have 13 seasons, they can give me one more
Come
season of Chicken
on,
Sisters.
right? Okay. Is there something that was missing for you from this finale or from this season?
I mean, what we talked about. So I was on episode 4, so right in the middle of the season, and now I cannot think of her name, but Frankie and her friend. What is her name?
Lindsay.
Lindsay. I feel like I mean, it's tough because like I feel like we kind of dropped that potential storyline by
I
the
think so
end.
too.
I do love the growth of Frankie realizing that the relationship she was in with Dudley, was that his name?
Dudley.
And like realizing that that wasn't for her, and so I kind of I really loved that growth from her. But then I just feel like there weren't even like moments between the two of them where I felt that same chemistry. Like we just kind of dropped. So I'm a little apprehensive for season 3, but maybe they were taking a step back to let the other storylines shine and wrap up, and then we'll get this beautiful like Nancy running for mayor and Lindsay and Frankie realizing that they like each other. I don't know. But yeah, I feel like that was missing.
That's my biggest miss too. They were hinting at it. It felt to me, especially the scene where Lindsay's talking to Frankie about it, and she's talking about how she's never kissed somebody, and Lindsay's voice goes way up in the conversation, and she's look, they've never outright said anything. This has all been things that people have inferred. To me, especially at the end of season 1, it felt very much like it was more than like a friendship longing when they left each other. Like it was more than just like, I'm saying goodbye to my friend. And I felt like with the Dudley of it all, Lindsay's micro reactions to all of that felt like we were getting hints of that. I didn't see so much of it reciprocated in Frankie. Frankie, it felt more like best friend energy. So I don't know what they're going to do. I've said all along, I don't know if they're going to go there. I wish they would. Like, I ship them so hard.
Yeah.
But they're living together in New York.
Mm-hmm.
I did think it was a wild choice that Amanda was like, text me when you find an apartment. I was like, these two 18-year-olds just going to go off into the city and figure out where to live on their own. Like, I mean, I know I'm a helicopter parent, but I think there's like a balance in there. Maybe, well, I guess Sabrina could probably help them. So I don't know where we're going with that. I really want to see something happen there though.
And I guess it's just going to be about women supporting women and just these two girls. But yeah, I just feel like until the second half of season 2, I just felt the chemistry between them was just jumping through the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would just love to see these two girls find happiness.
Me too. Me too. All right. Is there anybody we've missed on this show?
Stana continues to just be the best background character ever. When the publishing deal, when that guy comes in and he is just a jerk to Amanda about like, oh, you speak to, the bored housewife. And she's like, what are you talking about? I did think the whole time the original woman, the editor, so that was like the one who first connected Amanda with the book deal, she's giving him this side eye. So I was kind of waiting for her to come back and be like, we need to get rid of him. Like, everything you said is what I want. Like, I was kind of waiting for that moment because the way she was reacting, I was like, something's going on here. But then we don't see her again. And then Sean is just like, hey, you know that book series everyone loves? I wrote it. I self-published. And I was just like, this girl, in the beginning of season 1, I feel like all of her side hustles were kind of a joke. Just like, here's this Midwestern woman who's selling leggings and selling wine and working at the diner, da 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 da. And then really she's just like, no, I'm going to buy the Chicken Sisters and franchise it. I'm going to publish your novel. Like, I am just here to be, I love women supporting women. I love the themes, it's just like when she was like, yeah, I'm just going to publish your novel. I was like, yeah, you are, Shauna. Like,
it's one of my favorite reveals when she's like, this smut novel that we've seen throughout this entire series. Yeah, I wrote that. I loved that. I loved it. And it was so funny because it was such a great element of this season. Like that, it kept working its way in. And then that reveal that it was Shauna's, I almost felt like, because I think she's like, I'm huge on book talk, which made me laugh so hard. But I almost felt like it was one of those things that maybe they hadn't planned out. They're like, wouldn't it be great if it turns out that this like smut series that they're all reading is written by Shauna? It was perfect. That scene with that toxic masculine publisher dude who comes in and tanks it and is like, oh, little lady, like, you're going to be the everyday bored housewife. I really was like, why isn't this other woman like stepping in more? Why isn't she saying like, that's not what we're doing here? Because she had already made the deal and you could just see her, like, she obviously knew who he was and she knew his vibe. And so I kind of was like, why aren't you is her boss? But she just kind of took a back seat to him, and that was kind of a bummer.
I don't know if it was like a written scene direction or if it was the actor's choice, but she really reacts strongly to all the like misogynistic things he's saying. And then when Amanda is speaking up for herself, that woman is in the corner like, and she's like reacting but then she just leaves. Like, she doesn't say a word. She just leaves. And so it was like, were you supposed to go that hard? Was that just a personal choice that they kept in? Because and maybe she'll come back in season 3, but it just felt like she went so hard to then never say another line in the show and just leave.
Yeah, I thought it was weird. I agree. I thought it was weird. Well, are there any thoughts you have on the series that we haven't covered yet?
I don't think so. I know it's typically in a TV show, especially when it's related to Hallmark. I feel like one of the things you root for is for someone to find their happily ever after, and Nancy all of a sudden finds this really nice pastor, and Gus's first love comes back to town, and you're like, oh, this is so great. But I really think those two women shine best
together.
Yeah, like without, and so like I really hope there was one Hallmark movie, Christmas movie a couple years ago, where I really thought the ending was going to be that this woman realizes she doesn't need a man in her life.
God damn, the dream. That's the dream, right?
She's like, strong enough to do it on this own. She thinks her husband's dead this whole time, so she's like really learning that she's strong enough to raise their daughter without him. And I was like, wow, Hallmark is really doing this. And then it turns out the husband was never dead. He comes back. It's a Christmas miracle. And I was like, oh, okay. Which I'm sad. I'm happy he's not dead.
Sure.
But it was like this moment where I remember her like, she's having a pep talk in the mirror where she's like, I can do this. And I was like, yeah, you can. And I just kind of hope that we are getting that on this show. And I hope it continues, where these women are learning that they are stronger together and that they don't necessarily need anyone else, but they've built this beautiful community that they can rely on now. And I just really hope that continues in this show, that we keep seeing these women show up for each other and proving that those things you thought you couldn't do, you can do them. And
I agree with you, because when David James Elliott came back, I was like, yay, Gus is going to get a love interest. And then by the end of the season, when she and Nancy are on that plane together, I was like, yeah, that's where they're supposed to be. It's the two of them. They don't, they've lived their life for men for entirely too long. And while it would be fine for the both of them to have a love interest in the future, I loved that was the conclusion. Yeah. Just both taking their first flights together.
Yeah, like in this moment, it's these friends supporting each other. Like I loved Gus getting to feel special and loved and pampered, and it was kind of nice because I feel like, and this may just be projecting a storyline onto Gus, but having this man leave you, you're in love with him, he leaves, you now have this child. A part of her has probably always wondered, like, what would have happened if he stayed? And I do think there is this nice beauty in it where, like, she knows he might have stayed, but he would not have actually stayed.
Yeah, and I didn't miss anything.
Right. Like, so getting to close that door fully
Yeah, that's a great point.
And then just kind of like be like, all right, cool. I don't need that. I have this, and this is what I need right now. So yeah, I'm so excited to see where Gus and Nancy are off to and what they're gonna do. Just more of the sister storyline between Amanda and May, them just I don't know, figuring their lives out. Yeah, I don't know. I just love everybody in the show.
Yeah, they're all at such a good place.
Mhm.
Amanda and May coming together and being each other's biggest support. I really liked that too. I hope we get more of Sabrina. Look, I just want a season 3. I think there's so much more to
Yeah,
do with this show. And like
we
you
need
said,
Sabrina to take a more of a lead role.
I mean, they
Yeah,
found a way to bring her back naturally for this season, so I'm sure they can figure out a way that makes sense for her to be in Merrimack in season 3 or in New York with the girls. But we need her to close that loop with Gruster. We need a season 3, Hallmark. We need to see.
yeah, we need it.
Well,
I mean, they clearly listened to our episode on episode 4 because they did give us a lot of the storylines we were looking for.
That's right.
So if they're listening to this, season 3,
Season 3, we'll be back for season.
there's so many more stories to tell in Marinette.
I know it's a good show. We just need to get more. I don't think enough people are watching it. I don't think enough people are watching it. Someone in our Facebook group said he doesn't like chicken and he doesn't like fried food, which made me laugh. So he doesn't watch the show.
I think if you've never seen an episode and you don't have anyone in your life watching it, I do kind of think the title is off-putting.
There's like a barrier to entry
where you're like, I don't chicken sisters. Like it seems a little off-putting, but yeah, I'll have to work more on my friends, and post more on social media. Be like, everyone needs to watch this.
Everyone needs to watch.
It's so good.
Petition for season 3 renewal.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming back for this wrap-up episode.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Thank you for listening to this episode of Girls Gone Hallmark. We'll be back with more Hallmark reviews next time. Goodbye. All right, friends, before we go, just a quick heads up. You're about to hear some ads. These little gems help us keep the show running and the Hallmark love flowing. So do with that info what you will. Grab a snack, hit the skip button, or maybe, just maybe, listen in and discover your new favorite product. Bye.